Rebels, welcome to the Rebels Edge. I'm here with Pete Najarian. We're going to look at the SPY and a few other stocks that are starting to bounce today. But is it a bounce to hold on to or something that's going to go away? Let's talk more about it on today's Rebels Edge.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rebels Edge. I got my man. Look at old Ted Nugent over there looking all sharp and all that stuff. His first name is Justin, by the way. Justin, what a wild ride we've had. Now, I know you were on the show not too terribly long ago, but wow, the last 2-3 trading days, now 4, we are seeing some whipping around of the markets like I have not seen in quite a long time. You can go back to multiple different times where it's been crazy, but this is a pretty crazy one. What has it been difficult for you to navigate, or are you on this son of a gun?
You know, a little bit here and there. I think what's tough is trying to predict where things are going to go. And that's why in the market outlook and the Rebel Roundup, we've been saying, try not to predict, just try to react and try to let options and discipline make sure that you don't lose too much money on the downside. Because when this does start turning around, you're going to want to have that so you can take advantage of that upside.
Couldn't agree more. That's great advice. And that's exactly what people should do, is just look and see and be able to react. And don't get over your skis. Don't suddenly think that you need to throw all this money in or take all this, whatever the case. You don't need to go crazy. And you know, I think sometimes people, because of the media, probably they jump on things that are not exactly right, and it sometimes can really hurt and hurt in a really bad way. So I would say that that's a good advice, and you have to listen to yourself and what your comfort levels are, and everybody's going to have a different one. So it's, watching these markets go down 1,200, 1,800 points in a single day and then rally back, and then all the swishing and swashing and everything, that is something. All right. I think we need to get into that macro minute, my brother. So here's what I've got for you today. Trump said he's ready to negotiate, and oh boy, the rumors the other day were something. Now this is something that's become very real, and it's something that I think is exactly what we were waiting for with this launch of all of this, 140 countries or whatever it is. It's a huge number, but I certainly think that when he starts talking about, hey, this is what we're looking to do, maybe it's 60, maybe it's 70, there could be 80 countries that they're negotiating with. First of all, it doesn't happen overnight. But second of all, I think it is something that is a very big positive. If you were looking for that positive, this is what you were looking for, was at least coming to the table. Now we'll see if he can actually get this thing executed, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bottoming process. I think so many people are trying to just wait for that one headline. I think it's probably a series of headlines. But the good thing is that we have every bad thing priced in right now. So that does give us a little bit of bolstering. One thing I'd just note, if we look at the chart, we did come down to this really, really important level that we talked about in the Rebel Roundup, Market Outlook, and everywhere else, which is 480. That's the former high before that 2022 bear market. It's a really nice level that if you were going to take a trade right up against it and right underneath, you're wrong, so you can be disciplined and you can cut the trade there. Well, we came really, really, really tight to that level. We've bounced ever since. If you are going to be long, something really tight like that's probably not a bad idea, with a small position that you can go to sleep at night not feeling scared about.
Right. Love it. I think it's all great. How about the fantastic futures? You know where I'm going, man. I mean, what is there anything probably more focal than what we're looking at with the volatility index? Yesterday morning, before we actually started the trading session, we were trading up there towards 60, which quite frankly, given how much we were moving, probably didn't even actually accurately play where we were. But that is part of the VIX. It sometimes has that pausing mechanism sort of pricing that we see on the downside and the upside. Well, this was on the upside and we were hitting 60. Well, we pulled off of that. We were in the 50s for the majority of the trading session, 40s, 50s. And now today, all of a sudden, we're starting to fall back down towards that 38 level. I mean, when you see in 1 week the VIX go up 85%, that's a pretty outstanding move to the upside. So I would just say keep an eye on that volatility index. I think that really is the measure. I don't call it fear. I just say the measure of what to expect in the markets. And it's not always about the scary part of the VIX. It a lot of the time has to do with, hey, what are the expectations that we are looking at right now? 1% moves, 2% moves. We're looking for 3 and 4% moves, quite frankly. And right now we're sitting closer to 2% moves, which is exactly right for where we are on the volatility index right now.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that also weighs into how much you're paying for those options. By the way, everybody out there, if you're buying a ton of long options right now, just be ready as that VIX and Vega and IV start to come down. So too will the extrinsic value in your options. My fantastic future, real quick, is the Bitcoin. Ever since we broke below on the chart above, that's this white line. Ever since we broke below the election day anchored VWAP, it's been down, and we have really just been looking for that retest, just like the SPY, of that really notable level, that 70, 74K level. That's what we came down to this week. I think that's a pretty interesting spot. Again, not saying to rush out there and buy everything related to Bitcoin, but it is a really interesting level that if we were going to find some support, it's probably the biggest volume is right there, a spot that we have traded at many times in history.
Hey, Pete and Justin, Mark Lopresti here with today's Small Cap Spotlight on the Rebel's Edge, coming to you live from Fox Studios. Today we are highlighting OSTX, that is OS Therapies. This is a company that is developing therapies for rare diseases, unfortunately many that are in children, particularly a rare form of osteosarcoma. The company reporting yesterday that they have received orphan drug designation by the FDA. That, of course, enables the company to get their phase 2 application reviewed more quickly and with a higher level of priority. The company also announcing yesterday that they requested a meeting with the FDA to follow up on this and to get in more detail on this breakthrough therapy designation. So check out OSTX. Thank you so much for watching today's Small Cap Spotlight on the Rebel's Edge.
All right, let's just jump right into what we've got in front of us right now. How about starting out with Humana? Now, this one is absolutely had a great move early. It was up and actually hit that 300 level, which it hadn't been in it for a while, but it got up towards 300, pulled back, but still, we're talking about if at 280 or 285, you're still up 10, 11%. That's what we were looking for. Highest levels that it's been since getting over towards February. But the insurers, all of these various different names in the healthcare world, I'll tell you what, that really was something. Medicare Advantage, that was something that really just was launched out there. $25 billion additional funding that we're talking about here. The rate hikes, all the rest of it. This is something that I think is really, really critical and has obviously given a nice boost, not just to this name, Humana, but there are multiple other names. We'll talk about another one in a little bit, but United Health, Humana, we also have CVS. You've got names like Clover Health, all of these with a big lift today for all the right reasons. This is not something about earnings. This is something about the future and what those numbers really look like. And this is going to be pretty big, I think.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. It's really hitting a ton of healthcare stuff, and healthcare is in that nice little niche where you can call it risk off if the market's kind of not being great and it's not super growthy, but at the same time, they're getting this huge Medicare boost. Like you said, CVS, it's going to be a lot of the same story. And I really do like that you mentioned Clover, because on top of that, they have that high short interest, which we know right now of all times is going to matter a ton. So I like this story a lot.
Here's another one where it's a pretty interesting story, but it's not a very good story. When you look at Broadcom, yes, it was up early. It was up maybe as much as 8% or something like that. And still, even at that point in time, it was still down 20 some odd percent year to date. But the share repurchase is something that they normally you get a huge bump. Now, did they get a big bump? They got a pretty good sized bump, I'd say, to the upside. They didn't really hold on to that bump as well as you would like, but $10 billion, that's a pretty decent number. When you look at the balance sheet, you can understand why their free cash flow is $25 billion. It's a great looking balance sheet when you take a look at it. And I think that there are opportunities out there. I don't know that this is my favorite one. I think maybe it's gotten beat up by far over some of the other ones. And I think probably for a lot of the right reasons, quite honestly. But I still think that what they did was a big and a bold move. I don't think the markets are reacting as strong as probably they would have expected it to be. And I'll tell you what, I think that is something that's probably a little bit concerning if I'm looking at Broadcom.
Yeah, it's always a little weird when excuse me, when a company releases good news in a moment like this and maybe doesn't get a massive bounce, I agree that it's a little concerning. Semis as a whole are really beaten up. What I would say, yeah, if you have good news and you're a company, I would wait until the market's just a little bit more willing to give you that reward that you feel you deserve. But for Broadcom, maybe they're not looking for the good news. Maybe they're really just trying to buy the dip in themselves. What I'd like to see is more companies in this really beaten down market stepping out and also using that sideline cash to start buying the dip in themselves. That would start to bolster a little bit of confidence ahead of earnings season.
And we might start seeing that as we get into the earnings season. I mean, that seems like the tendency is for a lot of these different firms to just make those announcements with their earnings.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, we're going to buy $2 billion worth of our stock, all of that kind of thing. I mean, we've heard it time and time again, and it's worked oftentimes to really give an extra boost on some of these different lifts. How about Levi Strauss? Now, this is a name that goes way back, very big Cal family. These guys are huge. The jeans, that was the name. You didn't call them jeans. You say, hey, you got a pair of Levi's? Well, they're starting to do something really in some positive ways, but is it enough? And they talked about some of the clarity that they've got or don't have, the cloudiness of the future right now because of tariffs. So that is something that I think is definitely playing into what's going on here. Their margins, they actually just had their earnings, their margins better than they expected. They were at about 58. They're now 62%. That's a very nice thing. Their growth that they've got of their brand organically and globally has been something that's pretty impressive. The revenue's been up about 3% this past quarter. That's not a huge number. I'll tell you what, it's interesting to look and see. The stock had a little bit of a bump early. I just don't know if that's something that's going to sustain over the next quarter before their next earnings. So for now, I think that this one, because of the cloudiness of what's going on at the tariffs, and that will take some time for all of that to piece together. This is one of those names where it looks like some pretty positive stuff. I'm not really ready to jump into it right now.
Yeah, sustain over the next quarter or even sustain throughout the end of the day. They're actually down like 4% now on top, just fading hard. I thought it was really interesting. So their margins are slimming, their profits not necessarily slimming, and that's all good. And the fact that they think that they can beat the tariffs are really an interesting comment on the recession, right? They said they have pricing power. I've seen the price of Levi's. They're a little pricey right now, to be honest with you. So it's interesting. We'll see. Maybe they do. It's a great American brand. I think the sale of Dockers is also a pretty interesting thing for them. But yeah, I agree. I want to see consumer discretionary probably as a whole start to do okay, and for the market to start to get into that risk on mode more before I would step out and try and buy Levi's, even if they're thinking that they're going to beat the tariffs.
I tell you, my biggest problem with a lot of these companies, including Nike, is just competition. I mean, everybody seems to think, and for whatever odd reason, they all look at Nike and they're like, well, they are the king. They were the king. The problem is the king has been split up a lot. And there's so much competition in the shoes and the clothing and everything. And it's not just coming from Lulu and some of those brands. It's all kinds of other, even some of them being newer brands that are going after Nike, and they're winning. So I think the same thing might be said about Levi, and these numbers didn't blow anybody away from this past quarter. So I agree with you. I mean, this is something where they're going to have to really show us that they have the ability to start being dominant again. I don't know if I see that. CVS is the next one. I'll tell you what, CVS kind of falls in that same category what we were talking about earlier. And it's something where they're putting out their guidance. They reaffirmed that. That's great. That's fantastic. This is a company that if you haven't looked at CVS, I got to tell you something. This is a company that's gone absolutely to the stars. It's been absolutely sprinting. It was last I looked, it was trading $69. Take a look at what it looks like year to date in a chart. I'll tell you what, CVS has had a very, very nice run. That continues to be a run. They appointed a new CFO who's going to take the reins in just about a week or so, not too far out. There's a lot of different catalysts out there right now, but I think the primary catalyst is going back to that Medicare Advantage and all the rest of it. So CVS, keep an eye on this one. I don't know that you want to chase it, but I don't know if you've looked at this one or not. But I'll tell you what, this is crazy, Justin. This stock has gone nothing but just rocketing to the upside.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, they're up about 54% year to date. They have resisted a lot of the downside. When we talk in the Rebels, in the Rebel Roundup all the time, we say, hey, just look for relative strength. If you're gonna play something to the upside, look for stuff that does not care about what the market's doing right now, so that you can say, hey, when the market does start to do well, maybe these things will do even better. And in the meantime, you can still lean on something that's doing all right. I completely agree. If there was a favorite stock of the 4 that I have right now in this moment, it's probably CVS for exactly that reason. Buying begets buying.
Yeah. They're in this great position now with this latest news. I mean, it just seems to be coming. It's just absolutely amazing. All right. We want to jump a little bit of sports. You and I have a good time with some of this stuff sometimes. And I think that I'm not going anywhere crazy on you. I'm not going to ask you your picks for the NFL draft or any of that kind of stuff. But I don't know if you're a hockey guy. I know you're in Hawaii. So, but you haven't always been in Hawaii. So that's why I'm going to throw out what's going on in hockey. And to be honest with you, there are certain names in hockey that I think people that don't even follow it that closely, I'm probably in that category. I know the names. Let's be honest. I mean, Wayne Gretzky, the greatest of all time. His nickname was the Great One, and that's who Gretzky was. Well, the amazing thing about he and Ovechkin just passed him up. But here's the really incredible news on that whole thing. It took him 1,487 games to get past Gretzky. Do you know how many games it took Gretzky? 1,487 games. It's exactly the same number of games to get to the point where they were, and then he actually passed Gretzky. Here's the amazing thing that I'll throw out to you. So, Justin, when you look at this, and this guy is 39 years old, Ovechkin, could he play maybe 2 or 3 or 4 more years? The answer is probably. He keeps himself in unbelievable shape. He's a big son of a gun. I mean, this guy goes like 6'3", 235 or something like that. He's a big human being. So nobody's out there just going out after him like they would Gretzky. Gretzky was smaller. He always had his thugs helping him out on the ice, which was pretty cool. But I'll tell you, Ovechkin's very first year, he scored 52 goals. And the guy's been consistently scoring goals ever since he got there, and he's been one of the most amazing players in all of hockey. This guy might set a record that will never be touched, because I think that there's a possibility that he could get to 1,000 goals. Right now, he's at 895. So could he get to 1,000 goals in the next 2, maybe 3 years? I think the answer is yes. And does he want to? My guess would be he probably does. So we talk about GOATs all the time. I got to tell you something. The GOAT might be Ovechkin. It's no longer going to be Gretzky. As great as he was, Ovechkin might show him up even a little bit further if he decides to stick around for a couple of years.
Yeah, couple things on this. First of all, hockey's awesome because it's one of the only sports that just allows fights to break out. I think that's really cool, and it's great for the sport, honestly. Like, all jokes aside, I think, you know, you go to a hockey game and something like that takes place, and you have this big dude like Ovechkin just knocking people down is really, really something. That's really incredible. And as a fan of MMA, I like hockey for that reason. I think it's neat. And the only other thing I would say is that I just wish we could celebrate these things for what they are: an incredible athlete who's doing something really, really amazing, instead of like politicizing this and literally every possible other thing. When I looked this up, the first article that came up was Russian propagandists jubilant as Alex Ovechkin breaks NHL record. Like, can't we just say that he did well? Like you said, everybody knows Wayne Gretzky. Can't we just say, oh, you beat Gretzky? You know, cool, great, got a new GOAT. Why we got to make it about this?
Yeah, it is amazing, and everybody has to make it about something, right? No matter what it is, there's always something that they got to do that whole thing. Well, we're at the very end of this whole bracket thing, and NCAA college men's basketball, absolutely incredible. You know, it was something that was very unusual. It doesn't happen very often, for sure. But you get 4 number 1 seeds getting into the Final Four, and then you get to the Final 2 in that national championship game. And oh, by the way, it was close. It was nobody ever really was. It was 12 points. At one point, Houston had a 12-point lead. But in today's college basketball, you drop a couple of threes, and all of a sudden you're right back in the midst of the game. So, and that's exactly what happened. I'll tell you what, Florida was amazing. I think Houston was amazing. I love the way that coach for Houston coaches. He's aggressive. He pushes defense. He pushes a lot of different things out there. They could shoot threes all day long until yesterday. Both teams struggled. I do like what I saw with the ratings, but I really did wonder out loud, if Duke was in the final, what would the numbers have looked like then? Because so many people, the blue bloods of basketball and everything else, they look to somebody like Duke. And I think that was the one missing element for me, would have been, if they could have had Duke there, those numbers would have been even better. 15.3 million people were tuned in to watch that one. And I'll tell you, a great game. And like I said, it was never out of, anybody's reach, but give Florida a lot of credit. And the SEC, what they have done in college men's basketball over the last couple of years and put 12 teams into the, this bracket, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And, kudos to them. And I'll tell you what, a lot of it has to do with NIL, I'm guessing, as well.
Yeah, just two big powerhouses going toe-to-toe. You want a title game to feel big and to get the viewers and even draw in those passive watchers who are just at the bar and this is on. This one really, really delivered. Best rating in years. Obviously, that tells you everything you need to know. And I just think this is a really great argument for that thing we were all talking about back in 2021, which is, should college basketball players get paid? The answer, in my view, is obviously yes. NCAA recorded about $1.4 billion in revenue in 2024. It's good that some of that money gets to go to some of these players for the incredible show that they're putting on. If you're making your league money, you should be getting paid too. And this is just a great example of that. Great show.
I completely agree with you. And the only thing I would say to follow up what I just said is it needs a cap. I don't know what the cap should be. The cap should be something that they come up with again with the NCAA, blah, 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 blah. But I think the reality is you don't want schools that can dominate with their ability to raise money having to go against the others who can't. And I think that hurts the sport, I think, in that regard. Football, basketball, hockey, whatever. But I think that as long as there's some form of cap that they can come up with, maybe it's $20 million, that's what they say, or it moves just like in the NFL. If they can figure out something like that, I think that would make it a lot more sense. If they don't, and they haven't started doing that yet, you're going to see even more teams from the SEC getting into the tournament, and you might end up seeing like a 4-team SEC, because that's how much money and their willingness to do it when they go out and look for a little bit of money in this NIL. They're doing a great job because they've got plenty of money in the SEC, and certain teams, the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan, they can gain a lot of money in the snap of a finger. Some of the other schools, not really so much. And I think that's something that has to be fixed. But I agree with you. They definitely deserve to be paid.
Hey, Pete, before we go, tell me about the webinar you're doing on Thursday.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about this because as we get into this webinar on Thursday, which is going to occur right at the market close, it's going to be an opportunity for people to see, how do you navigate such a crazy market like we got right now? And buy rights are a great way to do it, covered calls. It's just the opportunity to take advantage of that volatility that we talk about all the time and some of the different levels. And we're going to try to teach you how you can navigate as well and put some of these types of things on if you choose to. All you got to do is click on that QR code. It's going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be very quick. We're just going to get in and just show you exactly what we're doing and how we do it and what we're really looking for. Those high volatilities that are out there, they're not something to be afraid of. It's something you can use, and we're going to show you how to use it the best way we can. So thanks a lot for spending a little bit of your time with us today. We've got Justin. Maybe he's going to be back tomorrow. I don't know. John might have lost his spot. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow.
All right. See you guys.